Rookie mistake. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ambassadorial Wing. I am your host, the Ambassador, and this evening I have got me Jason P. Preston, Esquire, Dungeon Master of Jason Polyhedral Paradise. And I said Jason a lot in the last 20 seconds. Jason, good evening, sir. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Ambassador.
It has been a while. It has been, wow, Fifth Element. It's been a while.
Oh man, that was such a great broadcast, though. I appreciate you having me back tonight.
I know, and I am so glad to have you with me again, my friend. Truly. And to the chat, Classic Comics, Shea Stormdragon, my moderator, always here, at least for 2 more weeks, and then she's gonna be gone for a little while, but then she'll be back, folks. And also to the chat, Brian Hill, Master of None. I know I saw you in here, my friend, and Superior Hero Reviews. Welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. And this evening, if you all can't figure out the avatar and the intro, we're going to be talking about a quintessential favorite of the 1980s and 90s, the Back to the Future trilogy. So, Jason, my gosh.
Where do we start?
From 1985 to 1990, Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg brought us one of the greatest time travel stories ever put on screen. Hands down, full stop. Come at me if you disagree.
No, I don't.
Chat, and to the chat, Adega Outlaw, my good friend, good to see you, sir. Adega, I did put the link for this on Twitter and on Discord if you want to hop on this evening, if you're feeling up to it. And to the chat, Wu-Tang Wells, good evening. I think you're new to the channel. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Protect you, Nick, from Jaws. Yeah, another Spielberg classic.
Wells is a friend of mine. I told him to come check us out tonight, Ambassador. I'm trying to turn him on to you. So, I drug a few people in with me. I hope you don't mind me bringing some people over,
Absolutely not. Everybody's welcome, so long as you're not a mean, hateful, negative little troll.
Oh, he's all of those. He's all of those things, but he's my mean, hateful, navel troll. I said all that stuff wrong, but you know what I mean? No, he's not. He's wonderful. He's good. He's great.
And to the chat, Brian, if you want to jump on and join the stream and everything, you know where to find the link, my bud. It's on Twitter and it's on Discord, both and everything. I put it on my personal Discord and everything. Just look under stream links for Ambassador, and if you want to join, you're welcome to.
Did you just say your butt? You call him your butt,
Bud?
Oh, Bud,
my bud, Bud.
That's different. Okay.
So
sorry,
but yeah, this is a truly timeless trilogy. Try saying that 5 times fast. Truly timeless trilogy. Stop.
You're done at once.
Nice lady. nice lady. That's my Jerry Lewis. Not particularly good. Oh, nice lady. So, okay. Anyways, getting back on track here. Yeah, this is a trilogy of movies that really has aged exceedingly well, considering it was started in the mid 1980s. And I guess Sean Harrison, good to see you. Anything? Yes. Welcome to the channel. I'm guessing he's another one of your.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Well, excellent. And here we have Mr. Brian Hill. Brian, the Master of None. Brian, Jason, I think this is your first time on stream with me. So good to have you both on with me this evening. Thank you for tuning. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in.
Glad to be here, man.
Brian, nice to meet you, bud.
Hi, nice to meet you too, Jason.
Likewise.
Yeah. So, well, folks, and fellas. Okay.
It's my nephew. Hang on a second.
That's okay.
That's all good.
That's okay. We'll keep the language. I promise we'll keep the language clean.
Can we try to keep the language clean. I mean,
yes, we will keep.
I can't guarantee anything. You know,
I know.
I got headphones on. He can't hear anything.
the longer these things go, the less chance of that happening is. You know.
Anyway, but yeah, fellas, where shall we begin? I mean, I open the floor. I've done my spiel. Where do y'all want to start? I mean, if you want to start at the beginning, fine. We can start wherever you want to start. I don't care.
All right, well, you know, I guess maybe we can talk a little bit personally about how these this trilogy of movies sort of affected us. Before we get into like the details of the production and all the stuff with Eric Stoltz and stuff, let's just maybe get a little personal with it. So,
what's
that?
No, it wasn't Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz didn't play the dad.
No, I didn't say the dad. I said before we get into all the stuff with Eric Stoltz, like all the, before we get into the details of production, let's maybe just talk about how these movies affected us personally. Just kind of give like a broad overview. Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah. So I remember. I don't remember watching the first one for the first time, but I do remember watching Back to the Future 2. Hearing about the production, how they were filming the second one and the third one back to back, and how excited I was when this movie came out, and then I remember going back once I heard about the second one and rewatching the first one, and how much the story just like gripped me. The idea of time travel, the idea of indeterminacy, and how like you could go back in time and you could change things, and things weren't written in stone, and just like that. This movie for me opened up like my mind to a whole like other way of thinking about reality, and to this day, like whenever I think time travel movies, I immediately go to Back to the Future. And I know like for a lot of people it's become sort of like a trite thing to do, but for me it's real. Like that Back to the Future was the foundation by which I judged other science fiction movies, and especially movies about time travel. Like, I took the rules that Back to the Future had established, and I sort of took that template and laid it over other time travel movies to see if it resonated. And for me, this is the series. This is the time travel series, and there are holes. There's holes in the plot. There are, but just as far as like a pure adventure story, just to be able to like, as a young kid, be able to put myself in Marty's place and having adventures with this older guy who was sort of like he wasn't a father figure to Marty, but he was like Marty's mentor, and like I kind of always wanted that in my life. I wanted this older guy who knew so much more than me to take me under my wing and under his wing and teach me like this like almost forbidden knowledge, and I always enjoyed that about Back to the Future. And like once we got to the second one, which was fantastic, and the third one's interesting for me because it's like the only one that sort of takes place in like one time period, but I guess we'll get into that. But that was the only one I remember seeing in the theaters, and I remember like it was a pick between that and I think Ninja Turtles, and I was Back to the Future 3 all the way. But so like these movies for me, like they always hold a special place in my heart, and I absolutely adore them, and they do. You're right, Ambassador. They do hold up, and they just even I thank God for Robert Zemeckis, who said they will never be rebooted as long as he's alive. Thank you very much. They don't need to be rebooted. You can't pick another. I know we're going a little bit broad here, but the DeLorean, you can't pick another time travel vehicle that is more iconic. And what would you do now? Like, I guess we'll get into this, but like if you were to reboot it, like what kind of vehicle could you pick other than a DeLorean for the time travel vehicle? Like, it's like you think time travel, you think a DeLorean. So I don't know. Totally. I've kind of monopolized a little bit here at the beginning, but yeah, I adore these movies. I don't know if you can tell. Like I adore them. Like seriously. And it's great to go back and think about them. But I'll let you guys. I've talked enough. I go to you guys if we want to talk about it.
All right. And just 1 second, we got a straggler coming in. Nobody Geek Jesse. Jesse, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Glad you could join us tonight.
I'm sorry. I would say I'm sorry I'm late, but to be truthful, I was out playing with my kids. So Sorry,
Well-
you guys take a back seat to my family.
You never have to apologize for that.
Shame.
sir.
No, the
For
priorities, man.
shame. Hang your. I'm kidding, Jesse. You know that family always comes first. I understand entirely, but I'm still glad you could be here tonight. And we really
I'm
just
happy to
got
be
started.
here,
So
right?
yeah, and honestly, we just got started. So you're good. You did not miss anything. Brian and everything, or Jesse, your thoughts or anything, your personal thoughts about Back to the Future. That's kind of what Jason was talking about before. Just a few minutes ago. So either one of you want to take a turn or anything, your personal thoughts on the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yeah, I personally, it's one of the first trilogies aside from Star Wars that I really fell in love with as far as a film franchise. I'm not the biggest fan of the third one, but mostly just because I haven't seen it that many times. But the DVDs and stuff like that, constantly watching the special features and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the whole thing, the Bob and Bob connection with Bob Dale and stuff like that. Wow. But yeah, no, I'll yield to the next one. Go ahead.
Oh, will you?
Go ahead, Jess.
Oh my goodness. When it comes to Back to the Future, look, this was the first trilogy I ever saw all the way through. I saw this before Star Wars, period. I mean, this was my science fiction before I knew what Star Wars was. It was just, I knew who Michael J. Fox was because I saw him on, oh my goodness, what
Family
was
Ties.
the name of that show? Family Ties, thank you. Yeah. So, I was watching that on Family Ties and I saw that and, this movie. And, it was just, I think, one of my first just strangely crazy views into science fiction. And actually my first that I would even comprehend it in time travel. And the first one to even comprehend it. And, as an added benefit, this is also the one trilogy that my wife and I can watch over and over and over and over. And we never get tired of it. We love this series.
Yeah. Well, speaking for myself, this is one that I never got to see in theaters because, I was just too young at the time, and it was something I might have seen the third one in theaters, but honestly, I don't recall because this was 1990 and I was X numbers of years old and I don't remember. But I do remember seeing these quite extensively on TV, on cable, and then we eventually did get them on VHS. And we have them, I think, on either DVD or Blu-ray, but we have the special editions that's got all the extra stuff and everything that has come out with it. But the amazing thing is this is a trilogy that has lasted for numbers of years, and it is a, I hate to use, well, no, you know what, this is a good term. It is a family-friendly series of films that you can watch with your kids and everything because they are, by and large, very clean and very entertaining movies. And they are a lot of fun. If you think about great science fiction stories, you think about Back to the Future. I mean, think about it. These series of movies has become truly iconic. There is really no time travel story that has really topped it except for maybe with H.G. Wells' The Time Machine and the various adaptations that we have gotten of that particular story. But this is not only is it a great time travel story, but it's also a great story in terms of how time travel can benefit people for a truly altruistic game. Because if you think about it, by the end of the first movie, Marty has quite literally changed the fortunes of his family because of his influence on his father in the past. Because Marty Sr. gets the backbone to haul off and cold cock Biff. And it's because of that one particular moment where Marty's family's fortune really changes. When he gets back to his present, the house is all pristine and beautiful. His family is functioning relatively well. Yeah, they're kind of arguing and whatnot, but they seem happy. His brother and sister, they're gainfully employed. His father is a world-renowned author because of the book that he's written, and the family is doing well. And all because of his, some people could say his interference in his parents' past, but at the same time, his interference has been a net positive rather than a net negative. Now, granted, in the second part of the trilogy, we do get a net negative of someone who has access to knowledge of the future and quite literally manipulates it for his own ends and his own gain. But this movie is so quotable. It's so iconic. If you think 80s and 90s, you think Back to the Future because of the DeLorean, because of the self-tying sneakers, of the self-drying clothes and everything that we see in Hill Valley 2015. We see the flying car, which we're still waiting for. Hello, where's our flying car? I want my flying car and I want it now. I want my actual hoverboard, not the board with the two wheels on either end. I want my freaking hoverboard.
Can I throw out the first one?
Please, be my guest.
Hey, you, get your damn hands off her. That line changed Marty McFly's family forever.
Yes.
Hey, you, get your damn hands off. Oh, and you can sit there now and you can go back and you can look at how weird it is that Marty, like the situation with Marty and his mom and stuff, and Biff and you I don't know, I guess we'll get into a weird spot here, but I don't know that you could make this today just because of what you were looking at there with Biff essentially raping a Lorraine in the back of a car. Yeah, it was sexually assaulting her. I don't think I would play today, but it would be a lot harder to make that today. But back then, you just oh, that's what he was doing, and you took it for what it was without adding all this other stuff on top of it. But
can I say something?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say this is an excuse, but it was the time.
No.
It was the time. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. I was born in the 70s. Luke, chill out, buddy. This is, by the way, this is my second co-host. This is Luke Skywalker. He's here to rescue you. Yes, his name is Luke.
Okay, well, isn't he a little short to be a stormtrooper?
Oh, no, he has totally got it all out there. God, all right, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to mute myself now because I forgot what I was going to say because I was
you're talking about the times.
My little puppy.
You were talking about it being the times,
Well, and the thing is, this was the times. This was the mid-'80s because the first one came out in 85, or 84, 85, somewhere along in there. And then the second one came out in 89, and the third one came out in 90. So, yeah, this film is very much, it is very much a time capsule of the 1980s and into the first year of the 1990s in a lot of ways, even though you could say there is a little bleed over from the 1980s into the third movie. But one of the things about the first movie that I really like is honestly that opening. That opening is honestly iconic, where Marty goes to Doc Brown's home and everything, goes into his garage with all that sound equipment, and he pulls out his electric guitar and hooks it into all the amps, and he's standing there in front of that mega speaker, and he cranks it up all the way, and he goes, and he gets knocked back halfway into next week.
was my favorite. That was
All
one of my
right,
favorite
now
parts.
I want to point out something that people have not realized. Do you remember that was the only one of the only few incidents where we ever got any indication that he was a rocker? In the first movie, yes, but it was only that point, and then when he was up there auditioning, and ironically, it was the guy from Huey Lewis and the News who told him he was too damn loud. I mean, come on. Huey Lewis
Yeah,
and the
because
News.
Yeah, because let's be honest here. Huey Lewis and the News, they weren't exactly quiet themselves. So, and to the chat, Shea, yeah, Jason, he does have a new channel, and also Nobody Geek actually has a channel. So, Geek, if you want to type something into the chat, so Shea can put your channel, which I remember I'm a part of. So we want to promote our channel or promote your channel. So,
well, the funny thing is,
Oh, yeah, I definitely expect you to be on time on Monday. Unlike me being late.
okay. Don't make me mute you like I do to Loki, because I'll do it.
What time do you guys go on Monday? Because I want to talk Star Trek.
Oh, you want to talk Star Trek? You wanna be on?
Yes, sir.
I've got 2 spots available for guests. I've got one already done. If you want to come on,
Yeah.
talk
Yeah,
to
Brian, we're gonna be
Ambassador. He'll get you in contact with me.
Yeah.
I'll get you the link on Monday, and our Monday it's 6:30 Eastern Daylight Time,
Okay.
and we're talking about TNG favorite episodes.
Oh, perfect.
But that being said, I've plugged my channel. Let's get back to the Ambassador.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the stream.
No, it's okay.
No, you're
Hey,
okay. I just want to
we're
make
here to
sure. I want to
Hey.
make sure I get back to the man.
I am not the man.
so Ambassador,
This
like
is your channel. You're the man.
since we're jumping around here a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
funny that you had Huey Lewis and the News be a big influence on like the first movie, and then who else? Like ZZ Top
Z
did the third
movie
double
Yep.
back. Yeah.
Double back. I
And
love.
actually, I had that single. I played it on repeat, and for them to show up in the movie, so
Yeah,
like there's this
because they-
whole there's
yeah,
this
they're
whole
the,
they're the band
at Square Dance
at the
and
clock
they
tower. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, they look the part. Because
they do. They were
I mean,
perfect.
all they had to do was change their wardrobe, really, because the beards and everything were perfect,
Yeah.
and they did a great job. And
They
you know,
All right. I have a question I've got to ask.
Yeah.
Of this trilogy, what is everybody's favorite?
3.
Number
3.
2.
I
Three.
love number 1. I love number 2. Number 2, I do like, but number 3 is my favorite because here's the thing: I grew up watching westerns as a kid. I mean, John Wayne, for crying out loud. Gary Cooper and all of them. I love westerns. I even like modern westerns like Tombstone and the 310 to Yuma with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe. I love a good western. And not only is this a western, but it's a time travel story.
Yeah.
So for me, I was an absolute hoghead because here's the thing. Yeah, you're going back to the foundation of Hill Valley, of the town itself, and you see the courthouse being constructed, and it looks period. And everything when I say period, I mean it looks like the time period in which they're in, 1885. And that's the thing that I love about this and everything. Not only is it a western, but it is a authentic at least a very good facsimile of an authentic Western settlement that's starting to grow up and turn into a town. And we obviously see how far Hill Valley advances into the future and everything, because you get Hill Valley 2015 in the second movie. So for me, it's the third one, but I love them all. I love all 3 of them across the board. But me, it's primarily number 3 because it's also a Western.
But here's the thing.
Yeah, you see, that's where I was going with. I was going to go with it because I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and I also grew up on sci-fi, western, and horror. So to see a beautiful mashup of western and sci-fi, I mean, if anybody can find me a better mashup of western and sci-fi science fiction, other than Back to the Future 3, go ahead and try it. I haven't seen it yet, and I've tried my ass off. They blended those two genres so well that it was just beautifully done. I mean, it was beautifully done, and it was the freaking early 90s, and they still kicked the pardon my language, I know it's your channel, but they kicked the fucking shit out of storytelling.
Yes.
Here's the thing that I liked about it from like the character aspect. So you like Back to the Future, you had Doc played a role at the beginning, and then Marty is the one who goes back in time, and he has like the Doc back in the 50s. He has to catch up. He's got to play catch up. So he goes through his experiences. But then we go to Back to the Future 2. Then it's Doc who comes and gets Marty, and they go through the adventures. But when we get to Back to the Future 3, these characters have both gone through a whole bunch of things. So now you have like Marty, who has had all these experiences in time, and you have Doc, who's had all these experiences in time, and they're both together, and they're in 1885, and they have to figure out together after they've gone through so much individually. It's like the culmination of their stories. Like they really did a great job. If you look at it as the trilogy as a whole, like at that point, they're both on equal footing. It's not Marty who has to come back and explain to Doc, who just discovered time travel, like, hey, you did this. And it's not Marty who's sitting there and having Doc explaining to him, like, your kids are a wreck. It's both of them have been through so much as people, and they both find themselves back in 1885 and have to work together with the collective knowledge to figure out how to like fix it for good. And that's the thing I like about 3. It's like, it's not a throwaway movie. It's not, we're just going to do it. There's real, like a culmination of all the character development the first 2 built on, that you get this, and like is really satisfying. And like, I'm glad they didn't do a 4th, but like, it's really like, I really enjoyed it.
No, please. No, never a 4th movie.
Well, and we really jumped ahead there, didn't we?
Okay, and kind of backtracking, we're talking about the production, the aesthetic, and everything. Go back to that first movie. You've got 1980s Hill Valley, and then you've got 1950s Hill Valley. I am a huge history buff, in particular from the 1920s through the 1950s. And partly because that was when my mother and my uncle and my parents and everything, they all grew up. So it's nice to see the world that they grew up in a manner of speaking. Granted, it's probably not 100% accurate or authentic, but it's a good representation just the same. Yeah. And I loved Marty's first foray into the world of the 1950s when he walks into the diner and he's talking to the guy that owns the diner. He's like, give me a tab. He's like, I'm not going to start. I can give you a tab. And,
oh my goodness.
That's the thing that a lot of movies are missing is nuance. Like that joke is so quick. If you don't know, like that goes right over people's heads. But that is a really good piece of writing. Hey, give me a tab. Well, I'm not giving you a tab unless you order something. And it's like, but if you give me a Pepsi free,
I'm not going to give you a Pepsi, fella.
You have to pay for it.
Something.
Yeah,
he didn't even know about Captain Free.
He's like, I'm not gonna give you a Pepsi free. He's like, okay, just give me a tab. He's like, I'm not gonna give you a tab until you order something. Yeah. And it's just, here's the thing. The humor in these movies is actually, as you said, Jason, if you don't catch on to it, it can go over your head. Because Robert Zemeckis and who else? I know Spielberg worked on this as well, but didn't Galen Hurd work on them with the script or something?
I'm not sure.
So,
That-
well,
that's-
anyway.
yeah.
Anyway,
All
but
right.
you know, yeah, the great and to the chat, I know there's a few people that's popped in. RR and Happy Dinosaur 8000. Good evening, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hope y'all are having a great day. And we're talking about Back to the Future. We're talking about the Back to the Future trilogy.
Can't go wrong with that. You can't
No.
go wrong with that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I am so thrilled to be here. I love this series. I mean, this is the trilogy my wife and I will watch together. Hands down, we love it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get better than that when it comes to shit.
Well, and you know, here's something else that I really liked. When Marty sees his father sitting up in a tree, and he realizes Dad's a peeping Tom. That's a peeping Tom, and it turns out that he gets hit by the car. He gets hit by his grandfather and everything. Lorraine's dad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if either of you realize this. One of Lorraine's siblings is actually one of the kids that played the older brother on The Wonder Years. Played Fred Savage's character on The Wonder Years, because Marty's sitting there watching TV, and I think they're watching The Honeymooners. He's like, "Oh, I remember seeing this before," and he's like,
"What's a rerun?
What's a
Oh,
yeah,
you're right.
I can't remember the name of the kid and everything who said it, but yeah, it is a it's like
crap.
And his Uncle Joey in the bars.
Uncle Jailbird Joey.
Yeah.
Get used
Uncle
to these
Joey.
bars, kid.
Yeah, you better get used to these bars.
I tell that to my son all the time. I'm like, get used to these bars, kid. He's like, what are you talking about? I just get used to the bars. I knew you're good. Yeah, just get used to the bars. I mean, I don't even have to have a DeLorean to know he's headed for the pound, but whatever. That's fine. Forget it. He's gonna be in jail. But anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hey, buddy, I'm sorry to say that's not a joke I take very well.
You know my son? I mean, he's a
no,
rough out
I
there.
don't know your son. I know my daughter. Unfortunately.
Oh, did I hit too close to him? My bad. Sorry. I mean,
yeah, I I'm not giving you shit. I'm just saying, hey, that hit a little too close to home for me. I'll hit you up DM offline.
Sure.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to, I don't want to saturate this shit, but just that kind of hit a little close home for me. I apologize.
Jesse, I don't think any offense was taken. We can't obviously know everybody's backstory on everything.
I don't take offense. No, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good.
So, anyway. Yeah. All right, back to Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
And another great scene in this movie is where Marty is in his radiation suit and he's standing there in his dad's bedroom and he's putting the headphones on his dad's head and he turns on that rock music, like that really loud rock music.
He's like Van Halen.
I am Darth Vader. Vulcan. And I come here just to hear the little bit crap out of you and make sure you do better in life.
He's going to melt my brain.
Are you going to melt my brain?
You know, it is great though. We look down at the comic.
Vader came from the mother Vulcan. If he didn't say I went out with her, he'd melt my brain out.
Well,
that would never fly today. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's funny to think about small things that were like not a big deal, and you go back and look at it, like, yeah, you couldn't get away with that. Yeah, you can't get away with that. You know, it's just I don't know. The classics are classics for a reason, and this is definitely one. You know,
yeah.
But
I agree hands down.
And it's funny some of the small things. Good.
I mean, I think the ambassador was probably trying to go there at some point, but I may have forgot. But that whole sexual assault scene, or for lack of a better term, rape scene. Because let's be honest, it was a rape scene. It was an attempted rape scene. And that would never fly now.
Yeah. Well, and we've already discussed that part. So let's move along. Let's talk about.
I'm sorry, Ambassador.
No, you're
I
fine.
missed.
So
No, we mentioned it, but the thing is, though, I don't know, like it wasn't done. I don't know how to. It wasn't done because to sensationalize it. It was just sort of whatever it was, like, but it was the penultimate.
Okay, that was random.
All right.
Did anybody see somebody?
Got some
Yes.
technical.
Unfortunately, we did.
At least there was a towel, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, at least thankfully there was a towel. Okay. All right. Getting back on track here. Yeah.
But, I was going to say, I like how they basically recreated the chase scene in all three of the movies where, Biff and his thugs are trying to chase after him, in the first one, in the second one, and also in the third one. I really like how they, it's kind of, how like the Lucas arc, as it were,
It kind of mirrors one another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And honestly, that whole chase scene, that thing was so well choreographed, and what have you.
Yeah.
Where Marty is on the basically it's a very early version of a skateboard, and the kid
rips it off and is like, "Here, kid."
He's like, "That was cool." He's like, and then of course you've got in the second one you've got him on the little kitty hoverboard, and then after the chase is over, the girl's like, forget that one, I've got a pit bull now or something.
Yeah.
And to the chat, just another nerd. Good evening, sir. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Glad you could be here. But yeah, okay, a very interesting scene, and a very comical scene, to be honest, is the part after Marty wakes up in his mother's bedroom there at the house.
Calvin.
And she starts calling him Calvin. He's like, why are you calling me Calvin? Well, that's your name is. It was on your underwear, Calvin Klein. And he's like, yeah, sure. I'm sorry. And can we just say it?
Oh, yeah.
Marty's mom, she was a little wild. Let's just put it that way.
A little bit. Just a smidge.
Hey, Jason, we can't hear you.
Okay, it's okay to say it. You know what? I'll take the hit for you, buddy. She was freaking hot, and she was promiscuous.
Jason,
exactly.
No sound. No. Dang nabbit. Don't you hate when that happens? You're fine, bud. Oh, wait a minute. You can't see me. Can you see me now? Good.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Can you see my doggy?
That's a nice
Yes,
doggy.
unfortunately, it frightens me terribly.
My
But,
puppy frightens you. He's a sweet puppy. He loves.
I know. It's okay. So,
Still can't hear.
yeah, Jason, you're still muted or whatever. Okay, it's all right. I think between the other three of us, we can carry this thing on until you get things figured out. So no worries. Well, Brian, I feel like you haven't really had a chance to speak. So something about the first movie that you want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. The dance scene, the enchantment under the sea ball.
Yeah.
Just the whole. I mean, every little aspect of it, and how they echoed it again in the second movie, but or showed it from a different perspective. But I definitely like the whole Marvin Berry thing, where hey Chuck, it's your cousin Marvin. But yeah, I mean, the Johnny Be Good. It, to me, that was like one of the first songs in a movie that I remember just kind of getting excited about. Definitely a good part of that movie. And the just the scene, the diner scene, of course, afterwards, where Biff comes in and he's like, "Hey, McFly, I told you not to come in here," stuff like that. So I always enjoyed that part of the movie. But
yeah, and R brings up a very good point when Marty takes Lorraine to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and he's like, "Geez, you smoke too? Can't you?"
Yeah. I swiped it from the old lady's liquor cabinet. It's like, what?
Thunderation. Okay. Something I'll bring up. We can discuss this. Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett L. Brown. This guy, he owns this role, much like he owned the role of Uncle Fester and everything in the Addams Family movies from back in the 90s. Christopher Lloyd, he was just such a joy in this part. He really was, and honestly, I can't think of anybody else that could play this screwball. Well, and I don't want to use the term crackpot, but for lack of a better term, crackpot scientist. And he's just
eccentric.
Yes, eccentric. Yeah, much better word. Thank you, Jesse. So
yeah, but he pulled it off nicely.
Yes, he did.
Slipped on his toilet and developed the flux capacitor. I mean, he's a genius.
Yeah, quite literally. And unfortunately, Jason, we still can't hear you, bud. I am so sorry.
Oh, poor guy.
Raging!
What is going on with him?
It's a good thing he doesn't have sound.
Oh, man.
Oh, he's going to turn green.
He's
Going to turn green.
on
Smash
us.
everything. And we're all going to Oh my
It'd be cool if you had like those color panels like back in the day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but
one of the biggest things, if you don't mind me saying, why I love the third episode the most is it had the science fiction and the Western. And it was just two genres that I grew up loving. I mean, Western genres, spaghetti Westerns, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Roy Rogers. I mean, just the whole Western theme at the end of a time travel. Just, I don't know, call me crazy. It just seemed to fit.
Yeah.
Just seemed to fit right in. And when it ended, it still, Doc Brown still figured out how to make a time machine, even in the time of the 1800s. I mean, the guy made a time machine in 1985. He made it in 1885. I mean, and he's like, it runs on steam. I mean, the guy was just
the train time machine. Yeah, that's one thing about the third movie that I absolutely love. And I don't know if anyone in the chat or if any of you remember this. They actually had a very short-lived animated series that was a continuation of Back to the Future.
Yes, I knew of it. I never saw it.
I saw a few episodes of it, and actually, I really liked it. I did. I enjoyed it, but unfortunately, it didn't last too long, which kind of sucked. But something I'll say about the first movie, and you both have brought this up, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. I will say this. I will say this for the decorating committee. They did a great job. Yeah, it was a high school gym, but it looked good. It looked pretty. It did.
Yeah.
So I wish they had a committee like that for when I was in high school. Okay, Jason, are you back with us?
You tell me, am I?
Yes.
Yeah!
Yes.
There was one choice.
Yeah.
And in the immortal words of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and there was much rejoicing.
Yay! Huge tracts of land. I missed that one.
I know.
God,
I wish you.
I
really
missed
do
that one.
not know that movie as well as other people.
I could talk for days about that one. But we're talking about and we're talking about Back to the Future.
You call yourself a nerd? Hang
No.
hang your no. I am talking now. Hang your head in shame. Shame.
Right.
All right, Jesse. Get your head back up, you goofball. Anyway.
Oh,
Okay. All right, Jesse, don't die on us, please. Please don't die.
can we
Don't
can we
die,
go
man.
can we go back to Marty's mom for a second? Because I wanted to say
Yes.
something about
Yeah,
Marty's mom.
Jason, go
All
ahead.
right.
Yeah, please.
All right, so look, that Marty's mom bit, like where you see the side of Marty's mom, that spoke to like a lot of like where you think your mom is your mom, right? But
Yes.
everybody has had a life before their kids. Like if my kids knew half the stuff I did, they like scanners. I mean, seriously, like, boom, heads explode. But like, and that was nice that like you could see like Marty's mom was not this saint, this angel, where like that she presented herself to be to Marty, and that was great. Where you got to see that Marty's mom was a little bit normal. Let's call her normal, okay?
Yeah.
Because she wasn't crazy.
She was a normal teenage girl. Let's just put it the way
Right.
that
No,
she's a normal.
remember what she said. She said at the beginning of the movie she never parked with a boy, or I actually that's the only line I remember. But the point was
She never parked with a boy. She never kissed a boy until she kissed Marty Sr.
Right.
in other words, she was totally full of shit.
Every parent.
Which as a parent at my age who has a daughter who is in a confused relationship because she can't decide how she wants to go, trust me, I get that shit way more than I used to. Crazy as hell, but you know what? I just do what a father does. I give her all the support I can.
Yeah.
And hope I give her the right answers because trust me,
Yeah.
if I give her the wrong answers, I am SOL. But
Well,
you
and-
know, unfortunately, I don't have a DeLorean to get me back to the right time.
Right. Well, you know, and RR brings up a very good point with his comment right here, and he's not wrong. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Dr. Brown was kind of in a way the archetypal wizard or jester or the reluctant hero. Yeah, and that's very true. That's very true, and that's a very astute observation there, R. So well done. So.
Well, here's the thing too. We need to remember when it comes to Doc Brown did not want to go back in time initially to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
He just simply wanted to explore time. And I mean, when he realized what the implication could be, he said, you know, he regretted it.
Yeah.
To a point, but then he realized, you know, when I talked about his whole steam engine thing in time travel, he's a scientist and he can't resist that itch.
Yeah, very true. Well, and you know, the thing about the first movie is this: it's very straightforward. It is simplistic, but honestly, that's the good thing about it is the fact that it is simplistic.
And
You
then
don't-
Thursday.
essentially you have Marty go back in time, interact with his parents, get his parents together, and then ultimately he does change the course of the future with that letter that he writes there in the diner before he goes back in time. And the one thing about this story that we haven't really touched upon is the science, because this is theoretical in a lot of ways, but honestly, the science of this could, if somebody ever got the brains to build a flux capacitor and figure out how time travel works, this is good theoretical science. Now, I don't know if Zemeckis and Spielberg and whoever else worked on this went to some physicists and what have you and said, hey, we're putting this technobabble into our movie. Does this make any drop of sense? And those physicists may have said, yeah, this could theoretically work. I mean, because there are theoretical scientists out there or theoretical physicists out there who are probably working on time travel. They'll imagine there's some sort of think tank somewhere that's working on trying to figure out time travel in the exact same way that Back to the Future did it. So, that's one of the really cool aspects of these movies is, granted, it's all theoretical science, but it could essentially work.
The issue with Back to the Future and where they talk about the science, so there's a couple of streams of thought, and Back to the Future really deals with the grandfather paradox. Like, if you go back in time and you do X and you prevent things from happening, then you'll no longer exist to be able to travel back in time and do it. So that's one theory. And then you have the multiple worlds idea, where it doesn't matter what you do, because when you travel back in time, if you killed your grandfather, it doesn't matter. Like, that creates a different timeline. So Back to the Future was very much the old style, where you dealt with the grandfather paradox and what would happen if you went back in time and you prevented your grandfather from meeting your grandmother. And that was what was interesting. A lot of science fiction movies like to skirt that, where they we don't want to deal with it, so we're going to go with this other style of time travel, where it's very much we're going to deal with the multiverse rather than with the grandfather paradox. But it was great when you write a movie that has to do with time travel and the grandfather paradox, and you create the sense of urgency. You have to do these things. You have to have these things happen the way they used to happen, and it creates a great narrative. It creates a sense of urgency. Marty had to get his parents together so he could be born. If you look at the multiverse, Marty could have never. It didn't matter if his parents ever met. The Avengers model. If it was an Avengers movie, it didn't matter if Marty's parents met, because it would have happened a different way. But because you were dealing with a strict model where you dealt with the grandfather paradox, Marty had to get his parents back together. He had to do these things, and that was great. It created a sense of tension, and I think a lot of science fiction doesn't want to deal with that. Doesn't want to deal with those constraints. So they create these other things, which may or may not be true. But it was great to see Back to the Future. It created this honestly, the picture of him disappearing. How cool is that to see his brother disappear, his sister disappear, and he starts disappearing? That's such a visual representation of the sense of urgency that is injected into the story, that you don't get that from time travel movies that deal with the multiverse, so but that was it was great for Back to the Future to that was fantastic for Back to the Future. I went off on a tangent. Sorry, my bad.
No, it was a good tangent, Jason. It was a good tangent. Well, and and here's another thing. If you think about this, for the 1980s, these effects were actually really good. I mean, the effects hold up, particularly the part where his hand starts to fade towards the end and everything, when his mom's dancing with the other guy instead of dancing with his dad and everything. His hand starts to fade. And he's going kind of. These effects for these movies hold up exceptionally well. I mean, the 1980s, 1990s, your mind's going to say this, but still, okay. And let's just take a few minutes and let's talk about one of the really big icons of these movies, the DeLorean, a car that was designed by a drug dealer.
More or less.
You know, but who's not though? I mean, honestly, I mean, I am. I mean, I'm sure, Brian, you're a drug dealer, right?
I can't cast stones, man.
Obviously, don't you know? We all have.
I am not a drug dealer, but
Definitely
you know, I'm
Well,
not
we're talking about the DeLorean itself.
We're just messing with you,
No,
Ambassador.
I'm just kidding. Around.
I know.
No.
But yeah, that car, even to this day, is still iconic. And it's still beautiful, and I especially when Doc Brown takes it to the future and does the hover conversion, and puts in the flying circuits and all that other stuff, and Mr. What's the thing?
Mr. Fusion.
Well, Mr. Fusion, but also Mr. Compost or whatever it is, and everything that he opens the thing up, he's putting garbage into the stupid thing.
Oh, Lou,
it was
poor thing. What the
Okay.
hell? How did you get them out? You poor thing.
It's gotta be a lot
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm shit. I'm sorry. My mic was.
I understand. I'm cycling back and forth. Muting my mic too.
So it's okay. But yeah.
Oh no, my dog just went like crazy, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I realized I wasn't muted, so I was like,
It's okay.
"Oh shit." Okay.
All right, Jess. Don't worry about it.
You tell Luke Skywalker that his ass is going to end up dying on a rock, projecting himself across the galaxy. But that's okay because I love him anyway.
He used the Force so
Sir
hard.
Nerdlot. I did not, dude. That's awesome. Sir Nerdlot, he brings up there was a DeLorean and everything that where he lived. So, and I don't know if the DeLorean actually went 88 miles an hour, considering the fact it was made out of stainless steel and how heavy stainless steel actually is. So I can't.
Don't knock the DeLorean Motor Company.
Oh,
They had a solid product for like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay.
Not a very good car on Forza.
Hey, how did you park in a parking garage? Seriously, the gull-wing doors? Like, did it not?
Hey, it doesn't matter. When it hit 88 miles per hour, we all saw some serious shit.
Yeah, that is honestly a great line.
Let's not forget that line and that scene. I mean, that is the scene that defined Back to the Future. The DeLorean, that flashback. I mean, look, you can go anywhere you want with the 3 episodes, but that is the kicker. So let's talk a little bit about how it got kicked off. I mean, Michael J. Fox was like shocked. His character, Marty Fly, was shocked. Like, what the fuck just happened? You just killed a dog.
You built the DeLorean. You built
in the 80s
DeLorean.
Was a
machine out of the DeLorean.
Exactly.
He's like, and Doc's like, well, yeah, of course. He's like, I figure if you're going to build a time machine, you might as well pick something iconic. And say what you want about Doc Brown. I pissed off. I gave a bunch of Libyan terrorists a bomb casing full of
Scotty bomb casing full of used pinball machines.
Bombs.
Yeah.
And of course.
Okay, I'm 20 years military retired, so I'm gonna not comment on that one.
Okay.
Because I was 5 years old when the movie came out.
As far as I know.
Have you sold a bunch of?
Hey, I was 5 years old when this movie came out, so I'm just gonna shut my mouth on the time frame.
I was 2.
All the stuff that was going to Libya. Libya. Where's Libya? That doesn't exist. That's a lie.
But
Libya's not real.
Go ahead, Brian.
But I wanted to just say something about my favorite one, number 2. I really like number 2 because where you guys are, the Western fans, I like future stuff.
Yeah.
And
I do too. I love it. Go ahead.
Going into the 2015, That was crazy. And then to think like the Cubs were that close to actually going to the World Series that year too.
Yeah.
It only
How crazy
took
was
a
that?
few years later, and
they won it the
did
next year. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you know what? Just off by a moment.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
And you know what? I'm a Cardinals fan. So you'd think I'd be pissed. Nope. If we're going to lose the pennant, we're going to lose the World Series, give it to my rivals. They
There you
earned it.
Yeah.
Damn right. There is not a Cardinals fan I know who did not give the Cubs mad props.
Mhm.
Well,
Same here.
108 years or something like that since they won
Yeah.
their last one. I mean, geez.
Yeah, well,
So-
and even I'm by no means a baseball fan of any stripe whatsoever. I don't really watch sports anymore. I don't have time. But yeah, even me and everything, not a baseball fan, even I saw at least the historical significance of that achievement when the Cubs finally won their World Series. I was like, everybody that I was a friend to that was a Cubs fan, I was like, y'all earned it.
Mhm.
Well done. Y'all deserve this moment. And
Yeah.
Deshaun Harrison, you have a good night, my friend. Hope to see you again, and thank you for tuning in. And you have a good night. Get your phone charged up. And Jason, you've got company again.
Well, Ambassador, I did not mean to hijack
I didn't say you
anything
did.
with. Oh no, what I was going with was, it's the whole point of the great part of diversity. I've known many Cubs fans. Actually, one of my old bosses, he was from Chicago, diehard Cubs fan. He was so pissed that the White Sox won
Oh, yeah.
the World Series, and I said, hey man, I said, I think your guys are going to get this someday. He goes, how do you know? I'm like, what does it matter if I know or not? Are you going to stop being a fan just because they lose? He said, no. I said, then be a fan. Maybe one day they'll win. And guess what? When I found out it was the Cubs in the World Series, I said, I want them to win. I want my rival, my biggest enemy, as a St. Louis Cardinal fan. I want them to win. And when they won, I was like, good.
Yeah.
I wanted that respect because it's like, hey, if my team's not going to win, I want a rival to win because you know what? I'm all about fair.
Yeah.
And they earned that win. They earned that World Series. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry,
no.
Ambassador. I know
Just-
I went a
I
little
swear,
late.
if you say you're sorry one more time, I'm going to mute you.
No, it's all good. I'm a huge baseball fan. It's my favorite sport. I mean, 100%. Big
Yeah.
Giants fan.
No shade thrown at anybody that's pro baseball. I mean, I'll watch it. I'll watch it, but I'm not necessarily. I'm not a huge fan of it. There's no team that I really back or anything, but I'll go watch it gladly.
Yeah,
So-
the other part I liked about number 2 though was Biff's Casino.
Oh yeah, Biff's Casino
With
yeah,
the almanac and
Yeah.
betting and stuff. That was
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, and, we've talked a good bit about the first one. We can. This is a good way to segue into the second one because honestly, I want to give each movie its time and its due and everything on tonight and everything. I don't misunderstand me. The second one is awesome. I love going into the future, meeting the McFlys of the future and everything, and seeing that they are kind of down on their luck. Let's just be honest here. And everything, and the fact that Grandpa McFly is using some sort of hover device and everything to oh good grief, Jason, you've had my pity.
I think he sued him for that too. Crispin Glover did
They might have, I don't remember.
because they used his
No,
prosthetics.
they did. Yeah, actually, that was a big deal.
Mhm.
Was they used his likeness, and
did
it was a lawsuit, and it had ramifications over that.
Oh.
I don't know all the details. You'd have to look it up yourself. I remember that because my wife and I researched these. Oh my goodness, we researched these movies. We love this trilogy. It is like
Wait a minute. Crispin Glover sued the.
Oh yeah,
yes, he
What?
did.
yeah. He sued
Yeah, he did,
everybody on that one.
and he won. He
But why?
won likeness rights.
Oh, so use it without his permission in the second one? Is that what happened? Like he
Yeah,
was.
that's exactly it. They used
Yeah,
likeness rights, and he sued for it, and he won. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
couldn't use his likeness rights again. That's where, Ed, you could all tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's where likeness rights really became a part of law
Yeah.
because they literally face painted somebody to look like him, and he's like, "Wait a minute, you're making someone look like me." And they're like, "Oh, well, we can't." He's like, "No." And there was a lawsuit, and he won. He won likeness rights, as best I understand. But yeah, that's why you didn't see him very much afterwards. He fought a battle against Hollywood and actually won.
Thank you for filling me in on that. That's honestly something I wasn't even remotely aware of. I assumed it was Crispin Glover that was in the second movie. So,
No, he wasn't in it at all.
oh, okay.
No, he was not. Oh, you
Okay.
didn't know that about? Oh, yeah.
Honestly, no, I
Hey,
didn't.
I'll try and shoot you some links afterwards.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Well, that and the
But-
Vistacloud camera.
So, but yeah, the other thing, the second movie, it is much darker if you really think about it. And just very quickly, Kathia Star, good evening, ma'am. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good weekend. So, but yeah, this movie, the second movie, honestly, the second and third acts are much darker in comparison to the other two installments in a lot of ways, particularly when they're in the alternate timeline. And they're hiding out, I think it's in Doc's garage or whatever. And he's talking about the alternate timeline where old Biv goes back in time, takes the almanac to his younger self, and it completely rim wrecked the entire timeline because Biff marries Lorraine, kills his father, anything after he's born and what have you. And, well, you can tell Hill Valley is a giant steaming crap pile. Let's just be candid here, except for Biff's casino.
Yeah.
And and this is something that some people have commented on in the past. While Biff is kind of a jerk, you don't necessarily see him as necessarily a villain, a real true villain, because he's just a bully more than anything. He's not a real villain. So that's kind of a nitpick that some people have had. Honestly, it's a small one and it can be overlooked and everything, but overall, the second movie I thought was exceedingly good. I mean, it really was.
Hey, Ambassador, do you want to hear something I found
Sure.
on YouTube today?
Sure.
Yeah, it was actually interesting. It was Christopher Lloyd and the actor who played Biff. And they were talking about after Eric Stoltz, the guy who was supposed to be, the guy who was supposed to be McFly and was fired. And I was listening, and he was saying, it was much older. It was like 5-6 years ago on YouTube. And he said, people would ask me if I have good memories or, stories. And he's like, I just wanted to remember my lines. And he made the story of, I got called into the studio. And they said Eric Stoltz has been fired, and you're going to have to redo some lines. And he literally, the way I remember his thing was he put his head down. He's like, touches his forehead, like I'm saying in some way. And he's like, I still get paid for this, right? And they're like, yeah, you get paid. And he's like, oh, thing. And then apparently Christopher Lloyd even, after Eric Stoltz got fired, was wondering, his position. So there was a lot of behind the scenes crazy stuff in that first movie. And if it hadn't been for luck, I don't know if we would have got the second or third movie.
Well, in Moyer case, she brings up an interesting fact about Biff. The fact that he went back to his older self, and she's like, he even touches him on the shoulder. I think messes up Einstein's theory that the same matter can occupy the same space. So yeah, that's an interesting thing right there, because Doc Brown's always saying we can't interact with our other selves, we can't talk to our other selves. This would be bad. He's like, define bad, and I don't think we ever actually get a definition of bad per se.
That same space can occupy the same matter at the same time. That was I'm not saying it's a bad theory. I'm just saying it was from a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. What was it? Time Jump?
No, Time Cop.
Okay. Time Cop. Okay. There you go. Yeah, that's why that sounds familiar.
But if you walk up and touch somebody,
doesn't mean it doesn't have a good relevance.
But if you walk up and touch somebody, you're not occupying the same space. You're just touching somebody. Like, it's like, I can see if you're trying to, like, if it was some sort of transporter stuff. Like, let's move to another genre where you're talking about Star Trek, and you're transporting into a place where something already existed. That's like things occupying the same space. But if you go back in time, you're not in the same space as another you. Like, you can still touch you. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, you're not occupying the same space. The spaces are separate. You're like 3 feet apart or whatever. So I don't think there's a problem with Biff touching his younger self. And did anybody see the deleted scenes where like Biff takes the almanac and comes back and like he starts disappearing? Because like when he goes back and gives his younger self the almanac, and then comes back to Hill Valley in 2015, he immediately starts disappearing. So like whatever he did, like that he thought was going to be great for him, ended up causing his death. Like, he thought, like, I'm going to go back in time, I'm going to make my life better for myself. But when he gets back to 2015, immediately he starts disintegrating, because that's not his life anymore. I thought that was like, I think they should have left that in the movie, like, because it shows you that, like,
you know what? I'm gonna agree. I wish they had. That would have really added a lot more gravity to Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, like I say, my only reason for loving Back to the Future 3 the most is it's a blend of my of Western and science fiction. But the idea of but I mean, when we saw Biff at the end of the future afterwards, he got out of the car, injured himself a little bit, and left a piece of his cane, and that's how everything fell into place.
Right, and that's how like he fell, because he was starting to experience what Marty was experiencing in the first movie, where he was dephasing, if you want to call it that, and that's when he broke the cane. But that scene was like, it was really like, it was important. Because like Biff wanted to do this stuff for himself, to make himself better in the future, but all it ended up doing was killing him. And that
I'm gonna be honest, in the grand scheme of the trilogy, that scene right there would have been irrelevant, because let's be honest, as fans, nobody cared about Biff.
Dude, I cared about Biff. Like, Biff
cared about him a little bit as a character.
No, I cared about him because like he was the quintessential.
Am I the only guy who ever tells the truth about the bad guys suck?
Well, the bad guy, I mean, Biff was Biff, man. And Biff was a character. That scene made Biff more than a character. Like at that point, like Biff was the bad guy. Biff was one dimensional. It did, but that scene made Biff feel the ramifications of his actions as a character, like more so than the other stuff. The other stuff was like Marty did this to him and changed him. But that scene where Biff, because he went back in time and wanted to do something better with his life, gave the almanac to his younger self, and he came back forward. But you know what? It didn't work out for him the way he wanted it to. And his actions directly led to what you can assume was his disintegrating in 2015. And that, for him, directly led to his death, his character's death in that version of Hill Valley. That was rough. When I saw the deleted scene for that, because at that point, Biff was always this caricature of a bad guy. He was held up. It was easy not to feel bad for him. But at that moment, I actually felt bad for him. I felt bad. I didn't feel bad for Biff at any other point except for that scene, because you did to you.
Well, here's the problem with that. Here is the problem with that, and I'm not even close to even being an editor, but that scene would have made no sense in the entire trilogy. I don't disagree with your emotional take to it. I actually understand it, and I totally respect it. I'm just saying, when you come to the unfortunate editor's point, they cut scenes, and sometimes when you see a scene that you're like, why didn't you keep that in? Sometimes, unfortunately, I have to play devil's advocate, and trust me, I am the last person who wants to play devil's advocate because I hate most things.
So why do you
Hey, Ambassador, by the way, peace and long life.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying peace to 2 minutes.
No, I was just saying that to you.
I know.
Welcome to the Cafe 80s.
Oh man, yeah. Let's talk about. Let's talk about
Elijah.
Let's talk about Hill Valley 2015. Why don't we have any of this stuff? Dang it!
Hover cars.
No flying cars, no robotic virtual reality Ronald Reagan or Omar Gaddafi or anything like this. It's so frustrating. And to the chat very quickly, Macworld Entertainment, Trey, who is a friend to everybody, including the ambassador. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We were about to talk about Hill Valley 2015 from Back to the Future Part 2. 3D movies. Okay, we do kind of have 3D movies, but not like they are depicted in the movie. And I'm thinking, I wanted to get bitten by a holographic Jaws, but still survive. Oh,
hey, just remember, that was 5 years ago now, guys.
I know, but still. Wait till we have this stuff out. Okay.
Ambassador, you think you're the only person disappointed? I mean, I think a lot of us really thought that some of that stuff was going to be possible.
I mean, we have most of it except for the hoverboards, right? Really, if you think about it.
Well, that's debatable. You ask my kids, they're all on hoverboards, even though I say they're not hoverboards because they have wheels.
Oh.
But, what am I going to do?
Okay, and Kathia?
Oh,
I love
that
show. I love that show. And honestly, guys.
Oh, God. Are we talking about Max Headroom? Max.
Max.
Right. And guys, I hate to say this, but we just literally got burned by Madam Ambassador. She just made the comment. She's like, "Y'all are a bunch of crybabies. We can have all these things." She's like, "Hello, Universal Studios." And I'm like, "Go."
I don't argue with my wife. I just accept she's right, and I'm going to concede.
She's not right. She's wrong. She's wrong 100% of the time. And I can't pull that off. I swear to God. No, they're right.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. 99% of the time, the
Right
wife
100%
is
of the
right.
time. Yeah.
They're right all the time.
99% of the time, the wife is right. That 1% of the time, the wife is wrong. It's because we screwed up.
Man, I got out of my lane there for a second there. I thought I had nuts left. Ah, I thought I had a sec. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh
Sorry.
man. Okay.
Hey, we're off board here. So
Yeah.
are we on the second movie, right?
Yeah, we're on the second movie. We're talking. Yeah, Cafe 1980s. Man, I really wish somebody would do something like that now. I mean, that would be so freaking awesome. I mean,
Wild Gunman, Duck Hunt. Hey, who didn't get excited when they saw Duck Hunt and Wild Gunman in
yeah, I know. Like, yeah, I know. Like, well,
And
knows.
Elijah Wood said it was a baby's game.
Was that Elijah Wood?
Yes.
No! Oh my God, how did I miss that?
Elijah Wood must be destroyed. Elijah Wood is the enemy. Elijah Wood, resistance is
Okay,
futile. You will be.
You know what? I could be completely wrong, but I'm telling you, I am almost 100% sure. Now I gotta look that up.
All right, I got a computer.
Now I have a reason to detest Elijah Wood.
Why? What's wrong with Elijah
All right,
Wood?
somebody if you prove me wrong, please do.
Anyway, okay.
But I'm pretty sure it was Elijah Wood.
That is Elijah Wood.
Who was on the when he was doing that
goes.
game of Wild Gunman.
Yeah, you have to use your hands. That's a baby's game.
That's a baby's game.
Yeah, that was Elijah Wood. Before Radio Flyer.
Oh God, I love that movie.
I do too.
2 Men 2. Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. You have a good night, and
Oh my God! Look
I'll
at
be in
that
touch.
baby face. It is him. Holy stuff.
Holy shnikes. Holy shnikes.
shnikes.
Frodo.
You know, just
Friggin-
every once
friggin'
in a
Frodo.
while, I would like to be. You know, just every once in a while, I would like to be wrong.
Anyway, okay, but you know, I know some people. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, it stinks. It sucks. It's all bad and stinky and poo. No, wait a minute. Disney doesn't own Universal. Disney owns
No,
MGM.
Comcast does.
Disney owns MGM. Disney owns Freddy Krueger. Yeah. We're talking about it tonight.
May he all right, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to be. We're talking about
I
good
don't
stuff.
think on Disney Plus anymore.
We're going to talk about the things we love, not the things we hate.
I mean, why do we hate
no,
Elijah
we're not
Wood?
going to be those.
We
We're not
don't.
going to be those
We're-
other.
we're-
We're not going to be those other podcasts.
Oh,
I'm not a podcast. I'm a live stream. Big difference.
oh God.
Oh, my ambassador, and you're part of my stream too. If I, unless I forgot, you know, I still need you on Monday.
Yes, I know.
Oh, and he hid.
No,
I'm just teasing with you, man.
I know. It's nothing personal.
I
It's
know
nothing
it's nothing personal. I'm just
Okay.
Brian,
All right.
Brian, what you got there, buddy? What's that? What flavor is that?
Berry.
Berry. That looks good.
All right,
I can't lie. That
Back
looks
on.
good.
6%.
All right, let's get back on target here.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
I can hold it. I can hold it. Pull up.
you're too close. Loosen up.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, you know
All
what?
right.
You know what? Every time, and I'm sorry, Ambassador, I'm going to get off topic here. Every time anybody ever asks me,
You just muted yourself, MB.
No, I muted him.
There you go.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. That is my Star Wars moment.
Yes, I know. It's one of mine as well. All right. Okay. All right, back. Okay, let's get to the not the conclusion of the trilogy, but let's get to the conclusion of part 2, because honestly, this is actually a pretty good.
Oh no! I got something I want to talk about. How many times did Marty McFly die in that tunnel when Biff was chasing after him in the car? Think about it.
Oh
Wow!
How many times did Biff run him over and Doc arrived too late? Because Doc could go back in time as many times as he wanted to, right?
Very true.
So if you think about it, horrifically, Marty could have died over and over and over again until Doc figured out the exact time to come down and drop down that ribbon. It's horrific if you think about it. Like, he could have died like tens of thousands of times. Like, Doc could have been late, oh, there, he's splattered on the pavement. Okay, I'm just gonna go try it again. Like, it's like, well, because he got a time machine to do that. Like, but I was thinking, like, he literally could have died hundreds of times in that tunnel. I mean, time travel is, I know, wibbly wobbly or whatever, but like the realistic, like, if you think about it, like, you can do these things. So, like, how many times have you died and where people have flipped it and you don't remember? Like, Marty could have been the stain on Biff's bumper dozens of times before Doc actually rescued him. And that, like, the things that you don't really think about when you're watching it the first time. Like, wait a minute, how many times has Doc done this? Like, how many times has he been late? How many? I don't know. Maybe I'm like.
No, Jason. That's a very good point. Well observed.
That's like a Star Trek Next Generation.
I actually do have something I want to say before that. I will actually go with Captain Catherine Janeway. When it comes to time paradox, I tend to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah.
Because you will lose your gosh darn mind trying to think of time paradox. It is one of the most mind-numbing and fun geek things, period. I mean, the whole time paradox. How does it work? I mean, you can go out of your mind doing that. That's why I said that. It was just funny.
You can. And
it was like, I'm binging. Well, you guys don't know. I'm sorry. The Ambassadors. I'm binging Star Trek right now, and I'm on Voyager. And I'm on Voyager right now, and she's very like anti-time paradox, and the poor ship gets caught up in them more often than they want. I'm just like thinking, I'm just thinking, the whole concept of just what she says is she's like, I don't try to understand this. It just gives me a headache. And it was literally the point in my life where I said, I am done trying to figure out time travel in either science fiction or something. I'm just going to leave it alone.
I like this time travel movie.
Yeah. So, well, and the thing I find interesting about the conclusion to the second movie is it is a very good cliffhanger, even though you only had to wait a year for the last part. But you got that guy in the black fedora and the trench coat, which I have both and everything that look almost exactly like that. Walk up to Marty in the pouring down rain. Yeah, he's like, "Are you Marty McFly? Who's asking? I have something for you." And you think, "Oh crap, something bad. This is somebody who used to work for Biff that's somehow survived the time switch." And
you thought that?
Well, you don't know what the guy's actual intentions are, to be perfectly honest. I'm just saying that could have been a possibility, but obviously it wasn't. He was a agent for Western Union or Wells Fargo or something like that. And he has a letter from Doc and everything
for 80 some years. Yeah.
to be delivered at this exact time, at this exact place, to this exact person. And Marty's like, and you have the close scene says to be concluded.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Especially since if you go back and think about it, like when Doc is in earlier in the movie when he's flying the DeLorean around and he's messing with the time circuits, that he bangs on it. If you go back and watch it, it says 1885. So you can like,
it does.
like banging on it, and it's like, so for him to like deliver that, and he's like, by the time you read this, you was 1885. I expect like that was like, oh, like my mind was blown when I saw that. I was like,
yeah.
And
hey, you know what? I want to give a lot of credit. And I think we all need to Michael J. Fox. He was on what was the show? Was it Family Matters?
Yeah.
And
Family Ties.
Family Ties. Yeah, Family Ties. Sorry, Family Matters was with
Reginald Bell Johnson and Urkel.
What?
Yeah, Urkel. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the agreement was he could only work on that show after he could only work on the movie after he finished his obligation on his show. So after they fired Eric Stoltz, they got him on. His corporation let him do it. And I mean, give the man some credit where it's due. The man had to literally work 2 jobs where I mean he had to work 2 jobs, 2 companies. I got to give that guy all the credit in the world, especially now with what I know what his disease he's dealing with. But I mean, the guy managed to balance it out as a literally, we got to remember, he was the replacement lead actor. He was the first choice, couldn't get him, got the second choice, got him after negotiations. Now, I don't know who negotiated with who. I'd like to think Michael J. Fox did with his company, but they made, as best I understand, they made it clear. It's like, you can go do that job, but you have to be here and do Family Ties. And somehow he managed to balance it out. So I think for a young man at his time, at 1985, he was, I don't know how old I was, only 6 years old. But I mean, for a guy to have to balance out that, man, mad fucking props. And I just want to make sure we remember that whole thing.
Hey, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And which brings us, of course, to the third and final installment of the trilogy. And okay, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna gush about this because this is, as Jess and everything has said, and I think everybody else in here, this is my favorite part of the trilogy. Yes, the other 2 are outstanding movies, even if the first one was just a standalone. The first one, it works as a standalone film, but the fact that it's a part of a trilogy. But this final film, it has got so much in it and everything. And of course, you finally get a love story for Doc and everything with what's the name of the actress?
Mary Steenburgen.
Mary Steenburgen.
Thank you. Yeah. Her and Christopher Lloyd, they look like such a cute couple. I don't know if they ever were together in real life, but on screen they fit. They really, really fit. I mean, he sets himself up as Doc Brown sets himself up as a blacksmith and everything in Hill Valley. And, a lot of people say that they didn't like the guy that was like the dean or the principal, whatever, there at the high school in the first movie.
What?
I loved him.
Oh, he was fantastic. You're
The
a
dude from
slut.
Top
I
Gun?
loved Marshall Strickland.
Yes.
Jess is. I don't care and everything. Jess, I just got your message. If she wants to come on and discuss the final movie with us, she's more than welcome to.
Yeah, come on.
Always. Everybody's welcome.
I liked him
So-
as Detective Lubeck in the
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
did too. Yeah.
That man is a quintessential, like, hard
like-
ass.
Yeah, 80s hard ass.
Hey, Ambassador, I'm going to give my mic and everything over to my wife.
Okay.
Just, she really knows this series. This is our, like, trilogy. I
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
we could watch this shit, and
I know.
I literally wanted her to give her 411. And when it
Oh.
comes to the third movie,
Mhm.
she's got this look on her face. She's like, yeah, she understands it. So I'm gonna step aside and
Okay.
give a woman's perspective.
By all means, yes. And welcome, Mrs. Geek.
Ambassador.
Yes.
Do oh god, I was getting ready to say something. I can't remember. So for the third one, do you remember like how you felt like when you heard that Marty, or not Marty, but the
Doc
guy,
was alive.
no, like the whole behind the scenes drama where he almost died, when the scene where he was being hung, at Michael J. Fox.
At the beginning.
Yes, yeah, where he was hung.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like like they called cut and he fell down and nobody attended to him and he literally almost died, and they left that scene in the film. And like I heard that.
I was
and
not-
yeah, you didn't know about that?
I was not aware of that. Now I was aware and everything. We may do this is another trilogy I'm gonna do down the road and everything. The remake of The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. That scene where he's being hung, something similar happens to him as well. But as far as the hanging scene in Back to the Future Part 3, no, I was not aware of that.
Michael J. Fox almost died. Like it was a big deal. Like
I can imagine.
Yeah, no, it was like I remember hearing that, and when I saw it, I was kind of like, I don't know, I guess I put too much into it, but like,
No,
it's like,
it's okay.
wow, we're watching somebody like a few minutes almost die, and like that really almost happened. This character really almost died, and I don't know, it was very interesting finding that out. But like, so my experience with the third one.
Well, Jason,
Uh-huh.
if you don't mind, we're going to yield to the lady, and then the three of us will chime in. So, Madam Geek, the floor is yours.
Okay, guys. So since I'm coming in, so we're talking about the third movie.
Yes, ma'am.
It is probably one of my favorite ones, just because of the time period. I like historical pick movies, and so I think it added a new perspective to the Back to the Future series or the trilogy. I remember my first time watching it at the very end when Marty goes back to the present and the DeLorean gets destroyed. I remember seeing like, oh my God, what about Doc? And then when Doc makes his final appearance at the end, I was like, oh, thank God, he's alive. And he married, the school teacher and everything. So that was my favorite part. And I remember watching these movies in the theater with my dad. My dad made sure that he took all of us kids to see these movies in the theater. So it's probably one of my fondest movies with my parents. And so, yeah, but I do like the third one.
The fun thing about the third one, when everything is so get your head in here. Come on, no, it's not.
No.
What happened to it?
Where's lighter fluid?
I don't know.
We're
no.
trying-
Oh, there you are. Say hi. They're starting a bonfire.
We're trying to start a fire.
Hang on a second. It's out there in the thing. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna go find out what's going on with the lighter fluid.
Okay.
Yeah. My bad.
All
My
right.
bad, guys. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna. One second.
Just a quick thing to the chat and everything. Y'all are talking about Pacers and basketball. I'm actually, I don't call myself a Hoosier, but I was born and raised in the state of Indiana, so I know Hoosiers basketball. I know the movie Hoosiers. I love the movie Hoosiers. Hoosiers is awesome, great movie. Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper, gotta love those two. So yeah, Hoosiers and Indiana, two things about Indiana I actually like. So anyway, back on target. So, but yeah, Madam Geek, yes, I am just like you. I love historical dramas, historical movies. One of my all-time favorites. Just a short rabbit trail. The mini series of Gettysburg that was put on by Turner Network Television. Love that series. Have it on DVD. Will never get rid of it ever in my life. But yeah, anytime you want to talk about historical movies, Madam Geek, get a hold of me on Twitter.
All right, we'll
or
do.
on here or whenever. So
that would be a big rabbit hole because I love the truths and stuff like that, historical pics, and then I read the books or I fact check things and see what they changed in the movie or the series, and I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah. So
we may have to do that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to work with you on something like that. Brian, Jason, Back to the Future Part 3. Kind of picking up where Madam Geek and everything left off.
Yeah, so Back to the Future for me, if 3 for me was the first one that I remember seeing in the theaters, and I thought it was crazy the notion of them filming 2 and 3 back to back. So it gave me the sense of like cohesion that like I loved 1, but it didn't have the connectivity that I felt like 2 and 3 had. It really felt like 2 and 3 told a separate story than 1. I don't know. Just for me. But like the fact that 3 spent so much time in one time period and you had to deal with like really up until this point, the 50s, they were different from the 80s, but they were a little different. But the 1800s were so much different and so foreign. Like I don't know. Like I love 3 and the aspect like, look, you're going to die. Somebody's going to shoot you. Like, we don't know. It was more of an intimate story. Like, the first one and the second one were great, but 3 very much felt like Doc's movie to me. And it was a movie Doc that there was a movie that dealt with Doc's you finally got to know this guy. You've seen him for 2 movies, but now you get to know him. And like
I think too, if I can chime in for a second with the third movie, is that when Marty goes back to the past and he's driving away from the Indians, and he's like, "Oh shoot, he has a bow and arrow stuck in the engine." For example, I'm not technical, excuse me. But he's like, "Oh crap!" And the fuel is leaking. I'm thinking, I just rewatched this a few days ago with my son. Thinking, "Oh shoot, he should have used a cowboy hat or something to catch the fuel because." The 1800s, there's no fuel. And I think the problem solving skills, like, okay, how are we going to get this 20th century piece of equipment to go to 88 miles per hour, to get the mechanical side of it to work, I think was really interesting. So rewatching it, I'm thinking, oh, what would I do? Because obviously I don't have the technology, no gas station, no automotive repair, none of those skills. Even in the 1950s, they did have some stuff, but they didn't have the plutonium that Doc used in the very first episode. So scientific problem solving that he had to use back in the 50s or the 1800s puts a different spin on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's one of the great parts of this movie. Brian, I'll go ahead. I'll go here in a minute. You go ahead and chime in, please.
No worries. I'm just trying to be. The third one I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I definitely you could tell just to what Mrs. Geek was saying. Doc Brown in the 50s had to redo the rework the flux capacitor in a big old box full of transistors and stuff on the front of the car. So like that was really cool. I like that aspect. The other thing I liked were like I said it before, but the tie-ins from the different movies. So like when they're having the get down, the hoedown or whatever for the community, the clock tower dancer. Yeah. Same thing with the video game. It was live action, Colt Firearms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, ditto. He's like, Sonny, where'd you learn to shoot like that?
Wild
7-Eleven.
Yeah, 7-Eleven.
Well, and here's a fun fact about that: the Colt firearm salesman. He actually plays a he plays I forget the name of the character, but he's actually in Blazing Saddles.
Which
You
one?
can't have her. She's mine.
I'm happily
Don't
married.
mind him.
So, but yeah, just for those of you that might not know that, the guy that plays the firearm salesman in Back to the Future Part 3 actually plays one of the foremen and everything that works for the villain in Blazing Saddles. If you say you've never seen Blazing Saddles or heard of it, I will boot you from this stream.
Hey, Ambassador, I've never seen Blazing Saddles.
You're muted.
But I did also want to say one more thing though.
Sure.
I love Leah Thompson and how she's with her Irish accent and how she would say, Mr. Ashwood. I had to say that at least once. I mean,
Jeez Louise.
I think too, or the movies with the movies and everything, that for actors and actresses back then to portray different characters, different perspectives, things like that. I think we've lost that in Hollywood. The ability for certain actors and actresses to actually truly act, to put their head and say, this is what this character is doing. So for Leah to play a younger self in the 1950s to an alcoholic in the 80s, and then to be non-alcoholic when Marty fixes things, and then to play a very 1800 version, I think that says something about her acting abilities.
She's got a lot of range.
I would wholeheartedly agree. And that's one thing I love about the third movie is you've got people that are playing alternate parts, and how they pull that off is extremely ingenious, because obviously you've got Michael J. Fox playing Marty, but then you've got him playing like his great grandfather, and everything. And it's him in makeup, but it looks good. It holds up to it. It's believable. It's very believable, and the way that. Okay. We'll be probably Jason, I just got your. We'll probably be wrapping up.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And everything. We'll be probably wrapping up here in the next 10-15 minutes, give or take. So that's fine.
Okay. Because
we're on the last movie. And everything. We want to give it some time, but we're not gonna belabor the point.
Yeah.
Madam Geek, you're absolutely right. A lot of these actors and actresses and everything, except for maybe a handful nowadays, couldn't do what Leah Thompson and what Michael J. Fox and even the guy who played Principal Strickland or Marshall Strickland. I loved Marshall Strickland. He gave me a very Wyatt Earp-esque vibe and everything from his portrayal of that lawman, and you get the impression, well, Wyatt Earp was a very prominent lawman in 1885 and everything, if I remember correctly, and I think I do. But you have his scenes. You have the scenes with Marshall Strickland with his son and him interacting with Mad Dog Tannen. And I'll say this: the guy that played Biff and played Mad Dog Tannen, he absolutely owned that role. He did such a great job as Mad Dog in particular. This is a gunfighter. He owns that role. He's like, Mad Dog, I hate that name. A reporter gave me that name. And he's like, and he's making Marty dance in the saloon, and Marty's actually dancing in his Nikes,
doing the moonwalk,
and then
he's singing Billie Jean. He's mouthing Billie Jean.
Yeah. And then he makes the spittoon hit Mad Dog right in the face and spill out all that funky, nasty tobacco, spit out tobacco. Jason.
The really interesting thing about that is, like, I don't know if they meant to do it or not, but it says something about cycles and like repeating patterns in like in time. So you have all these things that like you have these these people or these like archetypes that replay over and over through these different time periods. And like I didn't really think about it too much when I first watched it when I was a kid, but when I went back and rewatched it, I'm like, you have Mad Dog Tannen, and then you have Biff Tannen, and then you have Biff when he's a little older, and you have future Biff, and like these archetypes of these people, like are these things really like patterns that repeat throughout time? You know, like is this really like where you get to see Biff's family play out and Marty's family play out, and they all hit these beats that are predetermined through their entire life?
Yeah.
You know, it was really like I step back and look, I'm like, man, Biff's family has always been this aggressive type of person, and Marty's family has always been this type of person. It's like, I don't know if they even meant to get this deep, and maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. But
go for it.
Yeah, no, but it really like speaks to me. Like, do our genetics like determine like the type of people we end up being based on who our progenitors are? And like, I don't know. Yeah.
So I was thinking too, listening to you guys talk, is that with these movies, you know, watching with my son, he's 12, and he's like, so in the second movie, we're going back for a second, where Biff, he has taken the DeLorean, he's come back, and he's all hot and sweaty, he's like having a heart attack, and my son's like, what's going on? I'm like, you know, I don't know. They don't explain what's going on to Biff once he's come back from the future, giving himself the almanac. And then in the 50s, when Biff takes the ball from the boys or the kids and throws it in the house, they don't really explain to you why Biff is the way he is or why he's living with his grandma. So going on a tangent here for a second, if I may, is that, you know, Cobra Kai is the spinoff of the Karate Kid. You're seeing the other side of some of these characters. So it makes me wonder that if they did a mini series of Back to the Future to show you the other side of the Biff or the Tannen family, if we have a totally different perspective on that side of the Back to the Future trilogy. Just throwing that out there.
That's
and that would be very interesting.
And like, I never thought Biff was like a tremendously like.
Really?
Like, I didn't think Biff was like a tremendously like. I didn't think he was like a really bad guy. You know, like he was a little flawed or whatever. Like, I forget what he did in the 50s and stuff, but like, he didn't seem like this horrible person. You know. He just seemed like a person who was a victim of circumstances. Like, I never, like, I would, some of the stuff that Biff did, like, especially when he came back and gave his almanac to his younger self, like, I probably would have done that. You know, I probably would have.
Yeah.
And
I probably would have.
Yeah. I mean, why not if you have a chance? But, like, to see what happened to him, like, I thought it was, I think it's, like, I guess a little different here. Like, I think it's interesting that, like, you have all the stuff that was filmed for the casino being the Trump casino, like, yeah, and
my God.
I don't know. I like what happened? What's going on? Oh no, sorry, I thought something happened. But like, no, having like all the stuff from the casino and Back to the Future through to be the Trump casino, and then how like Biff rose to his prominence and like has his character sort of been like the Donald Trump-esque character. It's interesting, you know. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's interesting.
Well, guys,
yep.
Thanks for having me pop in for a few minutes. I'm gonna give the headset back to my husband.
Oh.
So, but Ambassador, I will have to take you up on that to discuss historical pick movies or series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get a hold of me. You know how.
All right, here's my husband.
All right. Well,
hey, it was good meeting you.
Yes, absolutely. One smart cookie.
I'm talking about back.
So, but you know, getting back to the third film, because we are gonna start wrapping up here in a little bit, right? Because we're coming up on 2 hours, and I don't want to go overly long. Or anything. Not that I'm trying to stay within time constraints. I rarely ever do, but you know.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
you're
what?
Stuck back with me now.
Yes.
Yeah, like what did the Fifth Element go? Almost 3 hours, 3+ hours.
Just about. Yeah. But you know,
Sorry, guys. I know my wife is easier on the eyes and more pleasant on the ears.
Just hush, please.
No, he's right. Let him go. It's fine.
No,
Definitely better on the eyes.
y'all are awful. Shame on you. Hang your heads in shame. Shame. Shame.
Give me a heart for me to look at him.
All right. All right.
So, okay, I know Ambassador, you said you were talking about, going to the third movie. Now, talk about blending time travel and Western in the same genre. They are so hard to mix together. And Back to the Future 3, in my opinion, pulled it off beautifully.
Oh yeah. Obviously. I mean,
what was that movie with Harrison Ford and
Cowboys and
Daniel
Aliens.
Craig?
Cowboys and Aliens.
Cowboys and Aliens,
God.
Daniel Craig.
Oh God! You know what? And I was like,
that movie.
that should have been a killer movie just based on those two characters right there. But unfortunately, actors can only do the
so
best they
much.
can. Yeah,
They can only do what they're given. But yeah, Jess, you're absolutely right, because think about it. Time travel and a Western. Not two things that you would necessarily see synonymously with one another, yet Zemeckis and Spielberg and Bob Gale, that was the other person who worked with
Bob Gale, yes.
They did it. They were able to pull off something that you rarely ever see a mashup or a crossover of. And, you know, it's got a good love story between Doc and Miss Clara and everything, Mary Steenburgen's character. And also, that was a very believable love story. I mean, everything because, you know, she's able to understand what Doc is trying to tell her after she sees the mock-up of the plan there in his blacksmith shop. And she's like, time machine. And it's the little wooden one with the batteries on the back and everything. And she's like, holy crap, he was telling the truth. And she goes quite literally through hell to get to him. And, you know, they finally figure out how to get the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour plus by basically causing a chain reaction explosion in a steam locomotive, but it works.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, you got to look at those movies and just realize that, for lack of anything, they gave us the first movie and it said to be continued. And we all, I think at my age, which was 5 years old, kind of didn't really pay attention to that until I was 10 in the 90s and they finally did the second movie. And then you really had to get back to the theater. What was this, 6 months later? I mean, they were cashing in on this. And I gotta tell you, for a trilogy, that Western science fiction blend was just, in my opinion, pure freaking gold, and that's why it's my favorite. It blended my two favorite genres, and in my opinion, did it perfectly, or about as perfectly as you're going to get. So,
Brian, what did you say?
Oh, I was going to say that's why Firefly was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because in a lot of ways, Firefly was a mix of space science fiction and Western. In a lot of ways, yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. But you know, the payoffs in the third one are so good because obviously you have Marty return his girlfriend Jennifer. Which, fun fact, 2 different actresses played Jennifer because in the third movie it was Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
Right. In the first 2 movies, I can't remember who it is that plays his girlfriend.
Claudia something.
Elizabeth Shue plays in 2 and 3, and somebody else plays in 1, right?
Yeah, her name's like Claudia.
No, I thought the girlfriend switched. No, you're right. I think the girlfriend did switch in the second one. I think you're
Second one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It
Yeah,
did,
she
because
switch.
if you
Okay.
remember the
Yeah.
if you remember the whole scene
Mhm.
where in episode 2 where he opens up and he sees the truck,
Yeah.
it's Elizabeth's shoe there, where it
Yeah.
was another person, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I looked this up a while back. It was a contractual obligation issue. She was working on something else.
Yeah.
And
So-
I mean, it was 5 years later, so
Mhm.
any
Very true.
probable obligation she had to the contract was probably null and void at that point.
Probably. Yeah. Well, and you
Yeah.
know, but the other good payoff and everything. I'll say this: I love the interaction with Marty and his ancestors, the McFlys and everything that have just come over from Ireland. I love that part. Absolutely love that part. It's such a great. It's such a great moment and everything. All the different little exchanges that they have there on the farm, and then there in Hill County in town and everything at the square dance and whatever when they have the celebration for the starting of the clock and everything. And I love the part where Doc and Marty get the picture taken together. That's a really nice nice moment too.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Doc hand off the picture to Marty and everything at the very end, and he's like, "Oh, little souvenir. Thought you might want this," and it's a picture of the two of them because Doc's leaving and everything and going off with Claire and the boys and everything to do whatever they're gonna do. Yeah, Jules and Vern. So
I like the end with the drag race with
Okay,
Flea.
whoever's gotten somebody hitting the plexiglass, please stop.
it's Jason.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. It was somebody hitting the glass. Hey guys, look.
Okay,
I got to head out. Okay, I'm sorry.
that's fine, Jason. Thank you for being
that's
here. I
fine, man.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
No
You have a good
problem.
night, man. You take
All right,
care.
guys, thank you so much. It has been a blast, Ambassador. Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome.
I
You
gotta
are.
I gotta see some people out.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
so much.
you, Jason. I hope
was
to,
great to
I
meet
hope
you,
to talk
Vicky.
to you again.
Likewise,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, man.
Yep, you guys have a
Jason.
good evening.
Peace, brother. Take care.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I hope I did not
No,
come off
no,
like a
Jess,
total
you're good.
asshat there.
No, it's all good.
No,
man.
Jess, you're good. There's life butts in. We all know this. Life butts in
I
when we're doing
know.
this
I
work.
just.
So
I'm sorry.
know.
I have autosensory
know.
issues, and I just look, like I said, I just don't want to come off as an asshat.
You're not. So no worries. All right. But yeah, in terms of 3, this is a great conclusion to a trilogy. It was a great conclusion to the story overall. And it has such great moments in it and everything. I know we've touched on a few of them already, but Jess, Brian, particular favorite moments from the third movie that you wanna bring up.
Brian, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly like the end of it, to be honest with you. I liked how it closed or tied up all the loose ends from the second movie. Because I know they basically just made them concurrently. But as far as like the drag race in the end with Flea, and basically he breaks the chain, like him not
Get away now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I
All
couldn't.
right.
What happened to your cancer roll?
Shh.
Whatever.
But anyways, yeah. Sorry, my nephew just came in.
Okay.
But
It's okay, man. Hey, we all have children. Hey, we all have children.
I have 1, 2.
cool, buddy. No, he just got some Chaos Emeralds for being good. He's a huge Sonic fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he like the new movie?
Oh, he loved the new movie.
Oh, you know what? We saw it twice in theater. I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it. I
Yeah,
literally thought I was going to hate that movie. But when they listened to fan outrage and redid him, I was like, oh shoot, there's some hope here.
They look good.
And the movie was great. I loved it. It was the last movie I saw with my kids in Family Theater before the shutdown, and it was just great movie. I mean, overall, great movie.
For those of you who don't know, it just recently got released on video. So
yeah, it is. Definitely take a look as a family. If I mean, Sega fans. I mean, I wasn't even a Sonic fan, and my son wanted to see it, and I'm a dad, so of course I'm gonna take my son. But when I saw the trailer and I saw the changes, I was like, wow, they didn't bitch, they didn't complain, they actually listened and said, okay, we understand, we're gonna fix this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ambassador. I totally hijacked you there. I apologize.
Okay.
No worries.
Dude, quit apologizing. If you say you're sorry one more time, I'm going to mute you, and then I'm going to kick you out. And then I'll bring you back in.
Hi, Mir.
So, yeah, Mir's been here into the chat. Philip Gaming, hello. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously, we're talking about Back to the Future Trilogy. We're currently talking about the last, the third movie, the words, finale. But, one thing that I love, and we've touched on this a little bit already, the fact that you had ZZ Top as the band and everything. And,
hey, how about the fact that the very first movie had Huey Lewis?
Huey Lewis in the news. Now, talk about a music change. So,
yeah.
But
I mean, like I said,
just real quick. No, Philip, we're not even worried about the Netflix that whole mess. We're just talking about the movies themselves and everything. I don't do controversy on my channel very often. And everything, and
I don't even know what's.
Apparently, I did hear about it, and I'll just mention it in passing. Basically, what they did with the second movie is they took out the girly magazine and everything.
Ooh La La?
They took out Ooh La La and replaced it with.
I heard. Oh, okay, I've heard that. Okay, I've heard Netflix is doing that kind of what I would call if you've never seen the movie, you would understand it. If you see it, the Thank You for Smoking, where they're trying to edit history. You just have to see the movie to understand what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it. But
So, but anyway, back to.
I don't get into that shit.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, in RR, he brings up a very good point. The third movie nicely shows that we are our biggest determinant of our destiny, and that's true.
Yeah, that's
in a lot of ways. That is very much true, because if you think about it, because of the wreck, because Marty doesn't get into the wreck, that future has been completely erased, and he can make it whatever he wants it to be now. Him and Jennifer can have whatever future that they want to have.
Yeah, it's like a nice exclamation point at the end of it. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the point was, it was the end. And it was, your future is what you remember, Doc was a time traveler. He was an explorer. And then he finally realized somewhere along the line between the third movie where he said, you know what? Your future is what you make of it, not what, because it's infinite possibilities. But he finally realized that, and he accepted it. And that's why the trilogy, when we finally got the end, it really fits. It really fits in. We see his, he embraced love. He fell in love. He met a woman. He had children. He took time to have a family, have fun. And then he, went back to tell Marty he was okay because Marty being his best friend, you don't want to let him think you died. You want to give him closure. The last thing Marty would have seen was him and Claire going off on the hoverboard, but he wouldn't have known what it would have happened after that fact. So the fact that he comes back and says, "Hey, I got married. I had some kids. I've had a life. I've moved on. We're doing good." He'd want to give Marty that closure. And at the end of the time, it really does complete the cycle, the loop.
It does. It completely does. Well, the thing that I really liked about the film is the fact that you see Marty ultimately evolve himself, not just Doc. I mean, yeah, we've mentioned that the third movie is very much Doc's movie, but you have that story that his ancestors tell him about a relative of theirs and everything named Marty, and the fact that that particular ancestor got killed and everything in a bar fight because he had temper and he didn't want to be looked at as seen as a coward. So,
see, that's where I would disagree with your previous statement. I'm sorry, Ambassador, but I don't think this was Doc Brown's story arc. I would say that third movie was Marty's story arc because he finally at the end, when he's faced with having to be a coward and have some real stakes in the game, and finally realizes that he's the one creating his own destiny. I mean, it ties all in. All he has to do is just change one aspect, and it all ties in so much at that third movie.
Yep. So, well, you could even make the argument that the third movie is very much both their movies, not just one or the other. But it's very much it's tying up both their stories.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. I was just saying I didn't think it was just all Doc Brown's. I thought
I wasn't. But
I'll emphasis on Doc Brown in number 3 than the first two, though.
Yeah, you do get a little more time with Doc in particular in his role as the town blacksmith and the love story between him and Clara. Anything, but this very much it does focus primarily on Doc and Marty both. And the one thing that I really appreciated about this film is we talked about the band and everything, but this is true of all three movies. The score and the soundtrack is very, very good. It's very, very iconic. And I think even if you remove Huey Lewis and ZZ Top from the mix and everything, the soundtrack for their series is this for all three movies for the trilogy is it's iconic. It's good it really sets the stage for the story overall. But
Alan Silvestri.
Yeah, Alan Silvestri was a big name back in the 80s and I think a little bit into the 90s, but you don't hear about him too much and everything anymore, really. So,
but he was like the Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you can really sit down and watch these movies and they're wake up, beer, thank you, wake up juice. When Doc takes his one and only shot of sarsaparilla and it knocks him on his butt.
No. It was whiskey. Remember, it was whiskey.
Oh, yeah, that's
whiskey.
Right. Yeah,
remember, the bartender said sarsaparilla and he said whiskey, and the bartender was like, "Are you sure? Do you remember?"
July.
Yeah,
it was the 4th of July. Yeah,
and he took it, and it was like, "There's a man who can't hold his liquor."
Yeah. Well, one thing that I really appreciate about this third movie is they had a lot of the old time Western actors and everything in the saloon there in particular. The three guys sitting at the table. And I think one of them was Slim Pickens, maybe, if I remember correctly. And of course, the bartender was another one of those. I thought that was a very nice touch by Zemeckis and Spielberg and Gale and everything to have those older actors from the old timey westerns way back when and everything in the in the 50s and 60s and everything. So I thought that was a nice wink and a nod. And of course, you have Marty use the gag, I think, for fist or for a few dollars more with Clint Eastwood, where he ties the pot bellies, the cast iron stove cover underneath his poncho. And he basically uses that same gag on Biff, or not, well, Mad Dog, and
that was foreshadowed in the second movie.
Yeah, in the second movie,
Do not forget, Biff was washing it in the tub, the suds, and he was washing a fistful of dollars. That was foreshadowed.
Oh yeah.
So don't. I'm just saying, don't dismiss that. It was there.
Oh yeah. Well, and obviously that was foreshadowed, and it was cool that they used that bit and everything to resolve the conflict between Marty and Mad Dog. So, but yeah, guys, I think we've pretty much dissected these movies as well as we can. So I think we're going to wrap up and everything. Do either one of you have anything you want to plug and everything before we sign off for the evening?
Oh yeah, check out my channel, Brian Hill, Master of None. Doing some basically anything right now. Mostly just been doing live streaming with everybody else. Just being part of the conversation, man, having a good time. Other than that, yeah, good times, and hope to work with you guys some more.
Absolutely, Brian, and you as always, and the same goes for Jason and for Jesse. Y'all are welcome anytime. So, Jess.
So, yeah, I'm Jesse. I'm also Nobody Geek. I run a panel on Mondays called Let's Talk Star Trek 10 Forward Roundtable. This week we're talking TNG, and the Ambassador is one of my co-hosts and my co-panelists. And you will never hear me say I am the panelist. These people, I would not be doing this if it wasn't for people like the Ambassador. So I love having people like him on my channel. And actually, we're going to have a guest ambassador. We're going to have, I don't know if you know him, Jack Beers, Way Too Many Beers. If Ryan wants to attend, he is welcome to.
Yeah,
you are welcome to, man. All you got to do is... get with me or get with, what, I tell you what, it'd be easier. Get with the Ambassador. He'll get with me. Mm-hmm. I'll get you the link on Monday when I send it out. And hey, you want to be a part of our channel? I am all about it. I have made my point of saying I just want to have fun talking about Star Trek again.
I love that too, man.
Okay. Well, and folks, as for myself, y'all, for those of you that tune in regularly, for those of you that'll catch us on the replay, I want to thank all my guests and everything, Brian and Jesse and Jason, for joining me tonight. This has been a lot of fun. This was a great stream. Coming up next week, Monday afternoon, I'll be resuming, of course, Afternoons with the Ambassador with Adega and Mountains of Elysium. We'll be talking Babylon 5. We're on the drive to 300. Once I hit 300 subscribers, we will be doing a 90s karaoke night. So if you want to see that happen, make sure you share this out and everything. If you come across this stream and you enjoy it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like and all those things. I am on Twitter, obviously. You can find me under right here and everything. But also I am on Discord. I have my own Discord and everything I've got set up. So if you're interested in joining that, just send me a DM on Twitter. And going back to something that I talked about the other day and everything on my Q&A session with Brian and a few other people, I have started a Facebook group. It's called the Interstellar Fandom Alliance. And just to give a quick overview of it, it is a community page for everybody, regardless of what hashtag you have in your profile or whoever you may follow. If you are looking for positivity and you're looking for a community where you can share your love of pop culture in a positive atmosphere and have open debate and be civil with one another, that page is for you. You can find me on Facebook under the Ambassador. Everything you look for, you see, you find the little knight, you found me. So if that's something you'd be interested in being a part of, just get a hold of me on Twitter. I'll send you a link. As also next week, next Saturday, we're going to be having another installment of the Ambassadorial Wing, and we're going to be talking about the films of Mr. Zack Snyder because, well, for a lot of people out there, a major victory has been won and everything, and we're going to get the vision.
That's to be determined.
Well, the fact that they actually are going to be releasing the Snyder Cut of Justice League, I would say is a victory.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I will agree.
So,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Let's wait until we see it before we start celebrating.
Well, yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well, the thing is, the original Justice League set such a low bar. Anything can be better than that. So,
hey, you know what? I'm gonna say something, and I don't care if anybody ever likes it or not. Ben Affleck was one of the best Batmen I've ever seen, next to Kevin Conroy.
I would agree. Sure. So, anyway. But yeah, folks, I'll be doing a couple other streams next week and everything. I'm going to try and do some pre-recorded stuff because I've honestly missed doing that. I'm going to be doing some movie reviews and everything, do some pre-recorded ones with some people and everything. So look out for that. And again, folks, thank you all for being here. This channel would be nothing without y'all supporting me, and I wholeheartedly appreciate it. So y'all have a good night, and until next time. This is the Ambassador, signing off.